Hello, guys. I hope that you're all doing well. I just want to go over the assignment that I'm going to post for today. Okay, so for your next assignment, you're going to be reading the short story Hares in the House on Mango Street. Okay, so that short story is on pages 6 and 7 in the novel. So it's very, very short, okay? But there's a lot of imagery and simile in this short story that I want you to be taking a look at, okay? So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Okay, so just a quick little mini lesson and review on imagery and simile. Okay, so imagery and simile add description and figurative language to a text. Anytime the author's writing goes beyond the actual meaning of his or her words, figurative language is being used. Okay? So this is a difficult concept. Figurative language is abstract. Okay? So there are many examples of simile and imagery in the short story Hares by Sandra Cisneros. Sometimes an example or a line can be both. Okay? A simile can create the imagery, so it doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other, okay? A simile can create imagery, okay? That it can be both, okay? So just some quick review. What is a simile? A simile is a comparison using like or as, okay? So she was as pale as the moon, right? Comparing her to the moon, saying that she was very pale. That's the literal meaning, okay? Her eyes glittered like stars, right? Her eyes weren't stars, but what you're really saying is she has pretty eyes. That's the literal meaning, but when you say it using figurative language, using a simile, it sounds a lot better. The meaning is a lot more deep, right? She felt like her heart would explode, okay? So this is a simile. You're just going to look for like, right? Which means she was very nervous. Okay, so these are those read between the lines type of skills that I want you to work on. Okay, so those are examples of similes, right? And those similes create images, right? So you can see how something can be both a simile and imagery. Okay, now I'm going to talk about imagery, okay, specifically. So imagery is description that appeals to the five senses. Imagery can be literal or figurative, okay? So here's an example of visual imagery. The crimson apple glistened in her hand, okay? So you can picture the red apple, crimson is like a deep red, glistening or shining in her hand as you read it. Auditory appeals to our sense of sound. The roaring thunder frightened the little boy. Okay, when you read that, you can hear, you can imagine what the thunder would sound like. Okay, olfactory appeals to our sense of smell. The athlete's sweaty gym clothes left a musty odor in the laundry room. Okay, so musty, right? That word, we know what that smells like, right? So that appeals to sense of smell. Okay, appealing to our sense of taste, right? The warm, salty broth soothed her throat as she ate the soup. Okay, so you can kind of taste it as you read. Okay, tactile appeals to our sense of touch. The prickly cactus pose an obstacle to the men as they hike. We can imagine what a prickly uh, cactus would feel like as we're reading. Okay, so again, imagery can be literal or figurative. And for this assignment, you don't need to differentiate between if something is literal or figurative. Okay, so what I want you to do, okay, is you're going to read the short story Hares by Sandra Cisneros and record two examples of simile and or imagery. Okay, I put the and or there because you can record two similes. You can record one example of simile and imagery. You can record two examples of imagery. Okay, what I ask though is that you label it. Okay, so simile number one, simile number two, simile number one, imagery number one, right? But you just need two examples of simile and or imagery, okay? And something that makes it really easy, right? A little trick to finding the simile is if you see something If you see a comparison of something using like or as, that's a simile. I will say in this short story, the whole short story is really just describing what kind of hair the people have in her family, right? But she doesn't just come right out and say that her mom has curly hair or her sister has straight hair. She uses simile and imagery to deliver that message. That's what makes it literature, and that's what makes it worthy of being studied, right? If it was just a story about a girl with straight hair, that would be boring to read. But what she does is she uses figurative language, descriptive language to explain what the hair of the people in her family looks like, feels like, smells like, okay? So that's what I want you to do. I want to make sure that you're using those close reading skills. It's a super short story. It'll take you 5 minutes to read, but I want you to go back in there and hunt for those similes and examples of simile and imagery. Okay? I hope that you're all doing well. Please tune in tomorrow for our Zoom extra help session. We'll be going over some of this stuff. I'll be going over the questions that you guys did, and we'll be talking about simile and imagery in this short story. Okay? I will see you all then. Have a wonderful day.